everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing with you some of the things that I will be looking at in the 49ers first preseason game of the year against the Las Vegas Raiders. That will be taking place on Sunday. I will be streaming that game live, so hopefully all of you will be able to join me there for all the fun that we always have on stream. But in the meantime, enjoy the video. There is a lot to talk about in this video, so let's not waste any more time and let's jump right in. Let's kick this video off on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to start off with the quarterback position. So what am I looking at the quarterback position against the Raiders on Sunday? Well, there'll be no Brock Purdy, so we won't have to keep an eye on him, but that gives more snaps, more reps to guys like Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and Brandon Allen. Now, if we start with Trey Lance, what do I want to see from Trey Lance? Really, I want to see that he has shown that he has essentially mastered this Kyle Shanahan offense. This is his third year in the Shanahan offense, third year with the team. I want Trey Lance to show us that he can really just move the ball up and down the field, that he can execute this offense at a pretty high level. What does that mean? Being able to execute the short gimme passes. Reportedly in camp, he struggled a little bit with that at times, so I'd like to see him look comfortable there executing those passes, the ones that just are such a staple of Kyle Shanahan's offense. Of course, we want to see him, execute the intermediate, the deep passes as well. But if he can get those short, quick passes out and really being able to set players up to, get those yards after the catch, that would be a huge, huge bonus. But also just being able to get the plays called in, look comfortable in the pocket, that would be a huge step forward for Trey Lance. And ideally, I want him to perform at a high enough level that he will make the decision for Kyle Shanahan as to who's going to start week one that much more difficult. I don't really have a preference as to who starts week one, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. I just want the best guy for the job to start week one. Trey Lance has a huge opportunity here on Sunday to show that he is that guy and that he should be the guy moving forward. And this is going to be really exciting to watch. We haven't seen Trey Lance play football in almost a year, so just can't wait to see how he looks on Sunday. Now, moving on to Sam Darnold. Now, to me, Sam Darnold is not realistically competing for a starting job, but he wants to be the primary backup to whoever, doesn't win the starting job. So it's one of those things where Sam Darnold, coming into this offense, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him. He doesn't have as much time compared to Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, but I'd like to see him execute the offense. He is a veteran guy. He's still young, but he has been in the league for a number of years. So if he can show off that arm talent, the one thing that I think has really plagued Sam Darnold is his decision making. And Kyle Shanahan, a strength of his in terms of his game planning, what he can do play calling, is that he kind of almost makes the decision for the quarterback before the play is even ran. So if he can get that Sam Darnold going into a rhythm, get that confidence, that's always a good thing. I think with Sam Darnold, it's always been mentally more than physically as to why he has struggled so far in the NFL. But if he can have a good preseason, then we'd have to feel good about that moving into the regular season. That should we have to call on Darnold, hopefully we don't, because that means players are either getting hurt or whatnot. But should we have to call on him, then we can feel pretty comfortable in him being able to run the offense. Then as for Brandon Allen, it's one of those things that I look at this from Brandon Allen's perspective is that with the 49ers, I think at best he could maybe be the third quarterback, but I think that's highly unlikely. So really with the 49ers, his, destiny is going to be that he will be on the practice squad. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen here is Brandon Allen will be picked up by another team to be their number 2 or 3 quarterback. So him going out on Sunday, he will want to execute. He will want to look proficient so he can basically, advertise himself to other teams to get on a 53-man roster elsewhere. But really a lot of intrigue are surrounding the quarterback position for the 49ers on Sunday, and it's going to be really exciting to watch. Now, let's move on to the running back position, and we're going to talk, and for me, I'm going to focus on TDP, Ty Davis Price. Last year, third-round pick, it was a little bit of a surprise pick. Didn't really do a whole lot his rookie year, but by all accounts, he has looked fantastic in training camp. One of the first guys that every coach seems to talk about is that who's impressed you the most. It's been TDP. You know, he's running with more confidence. He's in better shape, a lot more decisive. That is really big for a running back spot. And he's going to challenge for the primary backup spot to Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell, no surprise, he's hurt again. You know, Jordan Mason had a fantastic rookie year, and I think he's going to continue to go on and do great things. But TDP is battling to basically earn some playing time with the 49ers, and I don't see why he can't. You know, it's somewhat of an open battle for that backup spot to CMC, and I'd love to see if TDP can live up to the hype that we've heard about him in training camp. Now, let's move on to the tight end spot. Now, tight end, you know, Braden Willis, Cameron Latou are the two rookies, and they're the guys I'm going to be looking at big time when it comes to this game against the Raiders. You know, rookie tight ends typically do struggle quite a bit, but I think we can really see them, you know, if we can see them step up and make a couple of plays. We've heard some good things about Braden Willis from training camp. Cameron Latou, on the other hand, he's seemingly had some struggles, so if he can go out there, maybe have a couple of catches, a couple of key blocks, that could really build his confidence moving in through the rest of the preseason, so that would be great to see. We know what we got in guys like Charlie Werner and Ross Dwelly, so I'd love to see if Willis or Latou can step up and really make a name for themselves this preseason. Now, if we move on to the wide receivers now very quickly, we have our top four wide receivers pretty much set in stone. Debo, Ayuk, Jawan, and Ray. The big thing is how many wide receivers will we keep on the 53-man roster, and who will they be? Probably going to keep 5, maybe 6 wide receivers. Now you have basically Danny Gray moving into his second year. Can he step up and show a little bit more than what we saw in his rookie year? You have Chris Conley, who's really had a great camp so far from every report that we've seen. Rookie Ronnie Bell, 7th round pick out of Michigan. Maybe he can step up and show that he deserves a spot on the 53-man roster. Veteran Willie Snead, you know, he has a lot of high praise for Brock Purdy, and he's looked pretty good too. He had maybe the catch of training camp so far, so it's going to be a big, interesting battle at the wide receiver position. Who will separate themselves and who will earn that spot on the final roster? That will be really interesting to see. The first step of that is going to be showing what these guys do on Sunday. Finally, on the offense, for the offensive line, Colton McKivitz, if he's playing on Sunday, my eyes will be glued to him. At right tackle, he is the projected starting right tackle this year. Other than Colton McKivitz, I really want to see Jason Poe, someone who is really a lot of fanfare, a little bit on the smaller side, but incredibly athletic, and I think he could be a potential future guy, you know, even a backup in the interior for the 49ers, but a guy I think we're all rooting for. I'd like to see Jason Poe continue on what he performed last year in the preseason really, really well. I'd like to see him duplicate that this year and maybe get that spot on the roster. That's with the 49ers. That's the big thing we're going to be talking about is all throughout the rest of preseason and training camp is that the starting positions are pretty much all nailed down for the most part. It's going to be who gets those back end of the roster spots, who can get their way onto the 53-man roster. It's going to be a fierce competition and really, really excited for it. But there you have it, guys, for the offensive side of the ball. Those are the things I'm going to be looking at. Next up, we're going to talk about the defense. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, and let's talk about the edge position first off. You know, no Nick Bosa. He's not signed. I'm not worried. Again, I don't even think Nick Bosa needs to play. I don't think he should ever play preseason. As for training camp, maybe get a few practices in, but I think Nick Bosa will be good to go week 1, and I think we will sign him, so still not worried about it. But let's move on to some of the depth positions behind Nick Bosa, and who also is going to earn that spot starting opposite of Nick Bosa. We have Clelin Ferrell, Drake Jackson, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder, Robert Beal Jr. I want to see if any of these guys can separate themselves and really earn that spot. Now, from what I've read, at least in terms of training camp reports, I think the odds-on favorite to start opposite of Nick Bosa is probably going to be Clelin Ferrell, although I'd love to see Drake Jackson just come out, set the world on fire in preseason, and basically earn himself a spot. I don't really have a preference, but I think Drake Jackson is the guy with the higher ceiling than Clelin Ferrell, perhaps. So I'd love to see him just really earn that spot. Although at the end of the day, whichever of these guys step up and perform, I'm going to be happy just knowing that we have a pretty legit guy opposite of Bosa. But that's going to be really interesting and intriguing to see, especially in this new Steve Wilks defense. He's not looking to change it upside down completely from what DeMeco Ryans ran, but there will be some new wrinkles added on, and maybe players on the edge. Let's see how they perform and step up in this new type of defense. That will be the first thing I'm going to look at. The next thing will be is if Javon Kinlaw is going to play. I think he will play in the preseason simply because he was hurt a lot last year, hurt a lot the year before. He's had a great training camp. Reports are just A+. He is acing the offseason so far, Javon Kinlaw. But the biggest thing is we have to see it on Sundays. It's great to look good in practice, but I want to see Javon Kinlaw really just, show his dominance, his level of dominance that he shows in practice in game time situations. He has to bounce back. Can he earn himself a big contract next offseason, whether it's with the 49ers or elsewhere? This is a big year for Javon Kinlaw. I think he's going to come out guns blazing. Can we finally see him put it all together? Now, if we look at the linebacker spot, something really, really big is who's going to be that number 3 linebacker. Typically the 49ers just roll with the 2 starting linebackers, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Neither of those guys I will anticipate will be playing on Sunday. So then you have Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, Marceline McCrary-Ball, the rookies D. Winters, Jalen Graham. That is a lot of competition at linebacker. Maybe 2-3 of those guys will get a roster spot out of the 5, so it's going to be fierce. These guys are going to be swarming, looking to make plays, trying to basically demonstrate to the coaches that they are the ones who deserve a spot on the 53-man roster. Can't wait to see how these guys step up in this new defense as well. Steve Wilks, typically likes to blitz a lot more than what DeMeco Ryans ever did. So we maybe will be able to see these guys get after a quarterback. Can they force some big plays, whether it's tackles for losses, sacks, forcing interceptions, intercepting the ball, forcing fumbles, things of that nature, just being in the right place at the right time. That will be really, really big. But that competition at linebacker will be absolutely fierce. Now, if we move on to the secondary, some of the things that I'm really looking forward to seeing from the cornerback spot, I really want to see Sammy Womack. He had a really great preseason last year, maybe the MVP of preseason for the 49ers last year, if you will, and I'd like to see him replicate that. He's someone who we could end up counting on to playing meaningful snaps this year, and he had a great preseason last year. Can he continue that trend and maybe earn himself some more reps during the regular season? Also, Ambry Thomas, kind of the forgotten guy. He had a great end to 2021. Last year, didn't play at all, whether it was through injury or just being down the depth chart. But I'd love to see Ambry Thomas bounce back and show us what he can do. He was a 3rd-round pick just a few years ago. I think he really has the tools to put it all together. Can he finally do that, especially with the coaching of Steve Wilks, who really does specialize in that defensive back coaching? Now, if we move on to the safety spot, and also maybe still the cornerback spot, is Deshaun Jameson, the undrafted free agent out of Texas. He has had a great training camp so far. One of the other guys who just gets talked about consistently, whether it's by the 49er beat writers, 49er content creators. He has been someone who's been making a name for himself. And these are the types of situations where that guy who kind of comes out of nowhere, if they make the big plays in the preseason games, if they continue to do well in training camp, they can earn that spot and maybe knock a veteran guy off. So Deshaun Jameson has been the talk of camp. Let's keep an eye out for him. At safety, rookie Jair Brown. He was our first pick in the draft. We traded up to get him. Clearly the 49ers have a lot of confidence in a guy like Jair Brown, and I think that he could really be the future, starting safety opposite of Talanoa Hufanga. So if we can see Jair Brown really execute, be in the right place at the right time, make some plays like he's been doing in camp, that would be fantastic to see. And just to really show that this draft class can really prove some people wrong. I mean, this 49ers draft class, the first pick was 86 overall, so we're not really dealing with any 1st or 2nd round picks. But if these guys can still execute and the 49ers can show that they draft really well in the middle to late rounds, that would be awesome, not only for the now, but also for the future of the 49ers. And ideally, I'd like to see Jair Brown cement himself as the successor to Tashaun Gibson. With his Gibson, it looks like it's going to be his last year playing in the NFL. But Jair Brown, can't wait to see what he can do on the field. And there's a lot of intrigue around this 49ers defense. Number one in the NFL last year. There is some pressure on Steve Wilks to be able to replicate that. And we've added some big players. Javon Hargrave is a massive addition. I don't think he'll be playing in the preseason, but I can't wait to see what Steve Wilks has in store for us for this 49ers defense. And there you have it, guys, for the defensive side of the ball. Next up, we're going to talk very, very quickly about special teams. Looking at the special teams, I think it is very obvious to say who we all want to see is Jake Moody. We've seen a lot of fantastic reports out of training camp. He's been hitting from 55, from 60-yard field goals. Jake Moody has been, really a big talk for the 49ers, and it's going to be a massive departure away from a guy like Robbie Gould, who we've had. Robbie Gould, the consummate veteran, the guy who never missed a field goal in the playoffs. A lot of pressure on Jake Moody because straight away he's coming into a team that absolutely has not only playoff aspirations, but Super Bowl aspirations, but he seemingly has the demeanor, has the mindset to be able to execute in those big moments. His first test will be playing in his first NFL game, the preseason game. Can he show us all the good things that we've been hearing about in training camp? I'd love to see it. Also love to see how he does on kickoffs. If we can force a lot of touchbacks, which is always my preferred thing. But whenever there's not a touchback, the other thing that I will be looking at on special teams is going to be the kick return coverage, the punt return coverage. The kick return coverage in particular last year for the 49ers, I did not have a ton of confidence in. So, the second year with Brian Schneider as our special teams coordinator, can the special teams kick coverage be a little bit better? We know it's going to be led by all pros, special teams player George Odom. Oren Burks is another special teamer that we can rely on, but I'd like to see the special teams kick return coverage be a little bit better, at least, than what it was last year. But overall, we know when it comes down to special teams, all eyes are going to be on Jake Moody. Can he step up to the plate? I think he can. I think he's going to be a really, really good draft pick for the 49ers, but that will all remain to be seen. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are, trying to go through all the positions of the things that I will be focusing on Sunday. Remember, at the end of the day, it is only preseason. The final score doesn't really matter. I can't even remember the final score of any of the preseason games last year. But the big thing is, can the 49ers execute? A lot of players need to really try and cement themselves into the 53-man roster. A lot of pressure on other players too, just to really perform in the big moments. This is a very unique offseason and a unique preseason for the 49ers. And I can't wait to see if all these players are up to the challenge. Well, again, thank you so much, guys. And in the comments below, do drop some of the things that you'll be looking at that maybe I didn't mention. Whether you agree with me or not, we'll get a good discussion going in the comments below. But I want to thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoy it, do drop a like on the video. Consider sharing the video on social media, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because there's going to be content coming at you all season long from Shifty's 49ers Talk. And a reminder, I will be live for the 49ers versus Raiders preseason game. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Cannot wait. Can't wait to see that game and to basically interact with all of you guys again. It's been way too long. But thanks so much again for watching. And before I go, I'm going to say two things. The butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.